This right here is the best fully automatic crop farm in Minecraft. It can produce wheat, carrots, potatoes, and beetroots, plus it will also automatically sort them for you. The farm is very easy to build and can be stacked infinitely to produce thousands of crops per hour. Here are the materials that you need, and now let's check out how to build it. Starting out we do by placing a square of building blocks on the floor, which needs to be 9 by 9. In the video I'm using smooth stone, but you can use any type of building block that you like. Through the middle of this platform, you're now going to build one line of redstone blocks. Technically, there's also a way to do this with redstone torches, but it's going to make it more difficult to stack later, so we'll stick with the blocks for now. On top of this platform, we're now going to place down rails. Normal rails for on the side, but on top and to the side of the redstone blocks, we're going to use powered rails instead. On one end of this snaking rail path, you're going to place another redstone block with a powered rail on top into a solid block. Then on the other end of this rail path, build a minecart unloader like I show in the background. And just by the way, if you could give a quick like for the video, that would help me big time with the YouTube algorithm, so thank you so much for your support. But yeah, once your entire rail system is finished, we now want to build a wall around that is 2 blocks high. Over this entire construct, we will now place a roof made out of dirt blocks. Just make sure to build the roof in a way that there's really only 1 block of free space between the rails and the dirt roof. In the middle of this dirt roof, we're now going to place a leaf block and we're going to flood it with water. On top of that, we then place a composter, and on top of the composter, a normal building block. Then go and surround the top of this building block with trapdoors like I show right here. Once all of this is finished, build another 2 block high wall around the whole thing. To make sure that crops can grow later and also that no mobs spawn inside here, we also need to add some light now. You could just go and place torches around the outside walls, but if you want to make it look a bit nicer, you could also replace the building block on top of the composter with any type of light block like I do in the background. Now, take a hoe and turn all these dirt blocks into farmland. And just by the way, if you want to see more great Minecraft farms easily explained so that everybody can understand it, then you might want to consider maybe leaving the channel a sub, because there is so much more to come here. Welcome to the crew! But alright, now it's time to add our workforce, and for this part of the farm, it is very important that you follow the steps shown in the video in exactly the same order, because otherwise you might mess up the entire farm and have to start over from scratch. So, here we go. First of all, of course, we need to bring in a villager to work our farm for us. The, in my opinion, best way to do this would be to just bring a boat into a village and trap an unoccupied villager in that boat. You can then attach a lead and just pull him towards your farm. Then open up the side of the farm, and if you have to, you can also use some temporary blocks to make a little ladder for him to be able to walk in. If you now delete the boat, he should automatically detect the composter and walk into the farm by himself to turn himself into a farmer. However though, in case that doesn't automatically happen, you can temporarily delete one of the trapdoors, which should then allow him to pathfind into the farm properly. After you've turned him into a farmer, you then just put the trapdoor back so he can never ever touch the composter. Next, and this is very important, you need to give the villager 8 full stacks of whichever seeds you want him to grow. So for a carrot farm, you give him 8 stacks of carrots, for a potato farm, 8 stacks of potatoes, for a beetroot farm, 8 stacks of beetroot seeds, and for a wheat farm, 8 stacks of wheat seeds. This is very important because it completely fills up his invisible inventory and makes it so that he can always replant the seeds but never really pick up the crops themselves. That is what we want. And once you've made sure that he really picked up all 8 stacks of the seeds, only then will you start planting the actual crops. Lastly, just put a roof over the entire thing. Perfect! Now you successfully finished one layer of this farm. If you wanted to, you could now take the whole thing we just built and stack it on top of each other as many times as you want. For this video though, I'm only going to make 4 layers, 1 for each type of crop. However though, we're not done yet, because now it is time for a collection and sorting system. First of all, go to the one side of your farm where all the minecart unloaders are placed. You now want to connect all of them with a column of hoppers like you see in the background right here. This way, the crops from all layers are going to be transported down. At the very bottom then, you want to dig out a bit of a room like this, which will give us enough space to place the sorting and storage system. Let's though start with the sorting. Under the bottom hopper from the column we just made, you want to place a row of 5 hoppers that are all pointing to the side. At the other end of this row, we're then going to place a dispenser. Then place 2 temporary blocks under these 4 hoppers right here and build the following construction out of building blocks. Now, on top of these building blocks, you're now going to place 4 comparators exactly in these positions right here. Then add redstone on top of these blocks. The hole in the middle you want to fill with repeaters that are going to point backwards towards the direction of the hoppers. Finally, against this block, you're now going to position a redstone torch. Now, delete the top row of the temporary blocks and replace them with more hoppers. However though, make sure that these hoppers are all pointing into the comparators. Against the bottom row of temporary blocks, we're now going to position our storage chests for the 4 types of crops that the farm will give us. Afterwards, delete the last temporary blocks and replace them with hoppers pointing into their respective chests. Now, in each one of the hoppers that are pointing into the comparators, you now want to place the following items. In the 4 slots on the right, you're just going to put 1 out of any miscellaneous item that will never be part of the farm. For example, right here, dirt blocks. And in the left slot, you now want to position 41 of the respective crop that you want to be sorted. So 1 with wheat, 1 with beetroot, 1 with carrots, and 1 with potatoes. This way, the farm is now automatically going to sort out these crops into their respective chests. Finally, to get rid of any surplus that we don't need, build a little pit of lava next to the dispenser. Then you go and make a rapid redstone on-off signal, like this, connect it to the dispenser, and any leftover items that do not go into our crop chests will now automatically be trashed so that they don't clog up our system. And last but definitely not least, go to every layer of your farm and place a hopper minecart like this so it can start collecting our loot. And now also don't miss these super easy starter farms right here. See you next time, and until then, craft well.